Welcome to LinkedUp, Breaking Boundaries in Education, a podcast that focuses on what is happening in education today, connecting everyone to the movers and shakers that are breaking boundaries in the education arena.
We have with us guests from around the world. As a former social studies teacher, I think this is my favorite thing about technology, connecting people from all over the globe. And today we have Jennifer Surujpaul from Egypt. We have Mark Goldhawk from the UK, Jeff Kersting from Qutar, and Adam Archer from Vietnam. And our topic today is we're talking about what is happening globally with the pandemic and with schools, and talking about just what they're seeing where they are. And we had a little bit of talking pre-show about all of the masks and what's going on. So it's quite a conversation, and I'm ready to get started. I am going to start with Jennifer today, but I'd like to hear from you all. And I would like to know how and when did your schools shut down, or did they, during the pandemic? And the other thing is, where are you now? In the United States, we have either face-to-face, totally online, or a blended environment where they come a couple days a week and then they do an online version a couple of days a week. So Jennifer, tell us in Egypt what's going on.
In Egypt, so it was March 16th and we shut down the school. What happens, everyone went from face-to-face to online learning. It kind of hit everyone just like that, and we couldn't believe what was happening, to be honest. We were able to actually create an online plan that was used as well within ClassLink. This was distributed to our parents. I was doing lots of trainings with our staff as well for ClassLink, because we wanted to make sure that they had a one-stop shop for all the online applications. We got all their username, their passwords out as well. The webinars that we had for parents was wonderful as well. So we did that, and that we stayed online up until the beginning of term. We went back face to face, and that's where we are now. We're still face to face. We had some learners that decided that they wanted to stay online, so we had both. The teacher had to have the face to face, and then we had the online part of it, where we had our learners that were still there. After a while, though, we kept revising our learning plan, because it's a working document. That's one of the things, it's not set in stone. This is all very new to us, this pandemic. We don't know what's going to happen from day to day, and we are constantly looking at it, taking our staff, our students' feedback. But the most important thing that I would say from this whole situation is to make sure that our students and our staff, their well-being is at the forefront of our mind when we're actually creating our plan and we're updating this throughout.
Sounds very familiar, Jennifer. And safety is number one. Mark, I'd like to hear from you next. And I heard on the morning news this morning that London is getting ready to go back into quarantine. So what's happening with you?
That came through this morning, actually. So Boris Johnson announced this 3-tier system earlier on in the week, and then where our school is, just outside, just on the outskirts of London, we're going back, and we're not quite into where we were when we actually went into lockdown at the end of March as well. So we had about a week or so where we sort of knew it was coming. Various other things were shutting down. All the hospitality section was closing down, and schools were sort of the very last thing that the government decided to close. So we had a bit of time to sort of prepare for it. We knew it was coming, and we had a week before our Easter holidays, which actually worked really well, because we had those few weeks. None of us got a holiday, but we worked for those 3 weeks building our plan, getting everything in place ready for the summer term, and we were fully online for that whole term. We had little pockets of children come back in towards the end of the summer, which was really nice. It was nice to see them, or most of them, before they actually went for their summer holidays, because it's such a long period of time. And like Jennifer was saying, the well-being, it's not only our staff who are missing the children are missing the staff as well. And it was just nice to be able to get back face to face. But at the moment, we're all back in. We are doing face-to-face teaching. We've got our little bubbles dotted around the school, and we're hoping that can continue. I think the government's quite keen here to keep schools open as long as they can and running normally, or as normal as they can be.
Sounds so familiar.
Yeah.
Jeff, how about you in Qutar?
Yeah, really similar to Jennifer and Mark. It's the same thing. The government really closed us down at the end of March, and we talk about we quite a bit, but a lot of times it's not we. It's the government. We have to follow what the government kind of dictates. So yeah, it was a great way to reach out to the education world, as we all know, is that kids now are focused more on independent learning.
Right.
So that was quite a jump, right? But yeah, it's been quite interesting. With our school, we have right around 2,200 kids in our school, and we came back with virtually, and then we started hybrid. And again, that was a government kind of dictate what, the phases that will follow. And then lo and behold, we get one case, and with the blessings we have only 2 cases that we've had in our school since it started. So then that put a little bit of fear in some of our parents, and then the government came forward and said, well, we'll allow you to stay home and teach you virtually. And so that was another shift that we had to do. So now, versus the A-B day where kids stay home one day and come to school one day, the next choice that was given to them is that if you're more comfortable, you may just stay home and we will teach virtually. So again, it's been a pretty outstanding job by the teachers to get this involved, to get so involved in really three aspects of teaching. So again, the teachers have been doing a great job. I'm sure, like your schools as well, the teachers are the standouts right now, and we just support them the best we can.
Are they giving them, so the parents have the choice if they want to be face-to-face or stay home, or blended?
Correct. Yep.
Yes. Are teachers having to do both? Do you have to do your face-to-face class and your virtual class simultaneously?
Yeah, decided what we thought would be we would stream online through Zoom.
Gotcha.
And again, the best plans always go awry sometimes, but then what we felt is some kids couldn't get into the country, and then we thought, okay, we're going to have to do something for those kids that are back in Turkey, back in the States. And so because of the time zone, we thought we would record the Zoom lessons. And then the teachers felt, not only am I teaching the kids in front of me, but now I'm trying to also teach and focus on the kids that are online. And at the same time, I'm trying to record a lesson that I know is going to be seen maybe 3 hours from now. So again, the teachers are juggling.
That happened with us, and we had to then revisit our learning plan as well, online learning plan, because exactly what you were saying, we had the issue where the teachers felt that they were just selling themselves short. They were also just wearing themselves out completely, and it's about their mental well-being, because they were going home working till all hours, and then we need to think about what's the benefits of doing this, because it's only for 1 or 2 online learners as well. So we then revisited the plan, and we made sure that instead of doing that, we would have the students would be able to log on to Google Classroom, access the resources. The teacher could just concentrate on just teaching their class in front of them, instead of trying to do 3 things at once, which I'm sure that you had the same issue with, Jeff, as well.
We do, yeah. Yes. Adam, how about in Vietnam?
Yeah, actually, being neighbors to China, I think caused us to have that experience early. So we were actually, one fortunate thing about it is it was during the Tet holidays, so the Chinese New Year, where we had started to hear about some cases. I think there was a couple, 2 to 4 cases that were in Vietnam, but we started to hear reports from the WHO and things like that out of China, and Vietnam was preparing response teams and things like that. So it was February 3rd when we started distance learning, full distance learning. So the challenge with it was that there wasn't a network of sharing of what people were doing because a lot of schools were going in very early that week. Some schools in Hong Kong and not yet Thailand at that point, but we were hearing a little bit around Hong Kong. So some background in pandemics, or not pandemics, but cases like SARS and things like that. And avian flu, I think, has the response of the government more swift out here. Certainly the dense population in a small landmass is another factor. So we found ourselves during that Tet holiday putting together a plan within days. So it was from operations to academics, figuring out what are we going to do starting Monday. And it was basically like a Wednesday leading up to that. So it was a lot of long hours by our leadership team to put together what we would do, and communication coming in to teachers that basically were coming back, from vacations, wherever they may have gone for that break. So kind of returning and going straight to distance learning starting on that Monday. But we did have teachers on campus. So the good thing there was we were able to still use our infrastructure and teach from the classroom, and then students were connecting. There was a mix of using Zoom and using Google Meet to deliver the lessons. And it started with a lot of synchronous, where let's all come together in these stream sessions. And we learned pretty quickly that was a lot for students to take on. And so within, and like Jennifer was describing, there was that revisions each week of, okay, we're going to modify this and we're going to reduce that course load and move towards asynchronous with complementary synchronous lessons.
Before we move on, Adam, we were having a short conversation pre-show about masks, because for so many of us, masks are so new. But you were telling us masks aren't so new to Vietnam. You want to tell our viewers what?
Sure. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I left the room and grabbed this while I was out, and this is my daughter's. She's in K1, and this is the Eagles. I'm not sure how well that shows there. You got the eagle,
that's great.
And we've got the UNIS logo there. So yeah, we're just under 1,200 students, and one of the things we're talking about was that there already is a culture of masks. When people are feeling sick, they put them on already. So it was normal, and so we do. We're back to on campus now. We did 12 weeks of distance through till late April, and then we came back to campus. And fortunately for us, that included graduation. So we had a very small and still distanced, and not parents on campus. It was a live stream kind of thing, and we hosted that. And now we have the students back on campus, and we have day-to-day masks all day long. And what we found with that is it's actually been, you get used to it. You get really good at kind of hanging it off your ear to have a drink of your water or sip of your coffee. And we've installed things like plexiglass in the canteen where you can kind of put it aside and then put it back on as you move around campus.
Nice.
So it's something that we've gotten used to.
Is everyone wearing masks all day? Or all of your circumstances? You're not in the UK. You are.
We don't have to wear masks, but we have to sort of keep our distance. So
yes,
it's hard for the teachers. We can't go and mingle and support the children. We have to stay at the front of the classroom essentially and just teach from the front.
Okay.
So all students at NCBIS are wearing their masks. This ranges all the way from primary, secondary, and Dutch school as well. And our staff and parents have to also wear masks as they come into the building. They've also got a camera to detect whether they're wearing a mask and their temperature that is taken.
Okay. And then Jeff, you're wearing a mask all day in your school?
Yeah, we are. It's not a government mandate right now, but we just feel it's a little bit safer for the kids. And
right.
Those of us on the leadership team, when we're in our offices, we don't have to wear masks, but I always have it hanging off my ear. Because when somebody comes in, I just flip it on. And then I kind of leave it to them. If they take the mask off, then I can, it's about feeling comfortable for them too. So
Yeah, I know I'm in New Jersey, and they have to wear masks in any building. So the kids are wearing them all day if they're in school. There's an assortment, a variety of combinations of everything that you've said we're seeing in the States. But for you all, you know, you guys are kind of putting this all together. You go through iterations of your plans. Your plans are dynamic, obviously. But what other combinations are you having to deal with in order to really get this to work properly? Because obviously it's a hardship on the teachers. As you mentioned, it's a hardship on the students. They're resilient. Everyone's working through it like rock stars, and including all of you. But what are some of the challenges that you're facing with logistics? We'll start with Adam.
Sure. Yeah. One of them is for us, we are back to face-to-face, but there are no parents on campus currently. Okay. And another thing that was possibly, unique for us compared to, say, the US or certain countries is we've got a lot of, with the United Nations International School, we have a cap maximum of any nationality at 20% of the student population. So we have a mix of a lot of different nationalities. So what we found is in March, when there was a lot of uncertainty, and in a lot of the schools' cases that have talked today, were closing down at that point, we had families and also some staff and faculty that made decisions of whether they would go to their home country. There was considerations like access to medical services and things like that. Like if you had a family medical issue, you might go to Thailand, you might go to Singapore, out of Vietnam, and those would no longer be possible because of restrictions on travel. And so some parents and some faculty and staff had decided to go back to their home country. And then you've got new families that are coming in new. So we found ourselves, as we came out of the summer, heading towards this mix of people that were in or outside of the country to up to 15 or 20%. So we needed to look at, and parents that are local can't come on campus. So we needed to accommodate the orientation and introduction and to the school, onboarding for new families. So we did a lot of kind of video production of introduction to our different departments. We made a transition portal that we didn't have before. So we always were relying on that in-person, set up the gym and have all everybody come there. For hundreds of people learning about the school, it had to be virtual. So we quickly transitioned within about a month period to make that portal. So everything needed to be online. Ordering your PE gear or ordering your some supplies from the school shop. So school shop needs to go online very rapidly. Yeah. And then we also ran a summer school program, which was much more comprehensive with full busing and everything, because we were by that time back on campus. That was something that was unusual as well. So there was basically working through those breaks and our teams continue implementing these projects, being available through summer school, and then accommodating these parents and families that are coming in remotely. And we're still doing that to this day, where they are actually in a different program, a distance learning program. They're not hybrid with the class. Those new students join that bridge program, and they stay in it until they arrive, and then they join into their class. So we have kind of inductions going on every week or two.
Wow. It is a lot of logistics there. What about you, Mark?
Yeah, I mean, we've faced various challenges, I suppose, over the various iterations of what we've gone through. I mean, just it feels like ages ago, but thinking right the way back to March, it sounds silly, but even our children having access to devices, if you've got a family with 2 or 3 children, parents back at home working, they're using the devices. So even just very small logistical issues like that were problematic at the start. So we did lots to support our parents. We, as a school, we went and bought a whole load of iPads and shipped them out to the families so that they could have them, they could join our online lessons that we were putting on. So there's been a whole variety, but a bit like what Adam's school is doing at the moment, where we can't have parents coming onto the school side. We're quite an open site, actually, where we're set in the countryside in Surrey, and we have a sports centre on site. Parents are welcome to come in, and it's quite a close community here. So having them not able to come in is very strange, but we've produced lots of pre-recorded videos, doing sort of information evenings. We held our first set of virtual parents' evenings this week, which is something we've never done because we've never had to do it really. The parents would just come in, they've met with the teachers. So that was new for all our teachers this week, and they've handled it really well actually. But it's opened up loads of more opportunities where we feed into lots of senior schools around our local area. The families and the parents like to go and see them. They like to speak to the heads. They like to find out lots of information about them. So we've hosted lots of webinars with senior school heads where the parents have been able to come in, ask questions, and actually have more of a one-on-one conversation than they probably would have the opportunity to do in person. So yeah, there's been lots of changes, some that have been tricky, but some that have actually worked really, really well.
Mark, I have a follow-up question for you. You said you're in the country. So here in America, we have had Wi-Fi access problems in the country. Do you have that problem in the UK, getting people online?
Not too much. There's some parts where they can't get fibre connections and they're limited in their bandwidth, and especially when their parents are at home and on conference calls the whole time as well. That has proved problematic, but I say we've been quite lucky in that area that we haven't suffered from that too badly.
That's good. That's good. Adam, did you say that you have connectivity concerns? Well, you're all on campus now, but.
Yeah, you might have, you may have noticed I dropped out once on this call and I reconnected, but we call it the sharks biting the submarine cable. For services that come through the US, we have a main submarine cable that goes across the ocean. And while we went distance learning, during that, there was a cable ruptured, and they have to send boats and actually dive down and repair it. So they have to route. So all of a sudden we have everybody working from home. They're on different home internets. Sometimes they're sharing the same internet in the building with a whole bunch of other apartments. And so we had to support all these homes where they had weird internet issues, where the provider was blocking some Zoom calls, their Zoom calls were dropping. We had to get teachers that were then at home at that point. So they were on campus for a period, but when it was full lockdown, everybody was at home, including admin staff. And we had to VPN them through to get around the internet providers dropping certain traffic. So it was a huge spike in support. Sometimes we had to send technicians to parent homes to troubleshoot why they, one kid it's working, the other kid it's not, because they have two routers in their house, and and the technician is taking on some risk going into people's households and stuff like that. So we just did what we could. We also had a Zoom, like the full-time staff from our tech department stayed on a Zoom call where parents and families could drop in. So it was a big issue for us.
Great idea.
Yeah, I mean, that definitely gave you a lot of motivation to work hard on logistics to be in person too, I'm sure. Yeah. All right. How about you, Jeff?
Yeah, I'm just, to kind of tag on to what everybody else is saying. I think that probably the biggest thing for the parents was the question, how am I going to get lunch?
Okay.
And we're like, okay, we do everything because we're considered in the Middle East basically a soft target. We have security guards and security passes to get into the school, and so our cards, our ID cards, are critically important for us. So again, it's getting those cards to new students. And so they also use those cards to pay for lunch. We have an online lunch system that we developed in about 2 weeks that parents can go online and order food up to 5 days, and then the menu changes. And so really the heroes behind this whole thing for us, I feel like has been the staff, the lunchroom staff, the security staff, the cleaning staff. We just have that expectation that it's going to be clean, and we're going to have this steam cleaned and all this stuff, and it's just amazing what they do. So we had a bus service, and the bus service was put on hold because we also have construction going around the school, so we couldn't get buses in. So now we're trying to get the buses going again, and the whole emergency protocols, right? How do we interface with what the government wants us to do to the practices that we need to do to make the school function properly? So, you know, coinciding with the government regulations and stuff was quite interesting as well. The nursing staff here did a fantastic job to keep us all up to date. They did.
You don't think about the nurses. Their role has completely changed. So interesting too. I mean, everyone. I mean, you were really pointing out the fact that there are so many different pockets that, you know, we just rely on typically for the running of the school, but now their roles are heightened so much. And, you know, nurses, cafeteria workers, custodians, it's really elevated. And security for you as well, in your case especially, yeah.
And as Adam just pointed out too, I mean, those people that are going into homes, those people that are there all summer, they're putting their lives at risk. You know, so we have to have protocols in place for them as well to keep them safe. So
you do that too? Do you have people going into homes, or you did?
No.
Okay.
I mean, 2,200 kids. It's just I've got a department of about 12 people. So, but yeah, I mean, like the teachers, we have pack times, which is professional development times on Tuesdays. Right. That kind of fell off. We're right in the middle of another accreditation, so that has to be postponed.
Yes.
You know, with our student information service, you know, they everybody wants to adjust schedules, but when you adjust schedules, then you have to adjust the student information system to take attendance. And you know, my wife is actually the middle school librarian, right. And oh my goodness, you know, trying to get books and get books back and have kids come to the library, and to have books spread out so you can have the virus die over a certain number of days. I mean, all that stuff is very difficult. So again, we just keep plugging away, try to stay positive. The kids have been great. And again, this truly is a team effort, you know, not just, and then, you know, hearing from you guys too, what you guys do. Everybody has their own cases, that's for sure.
Yeah. I mean, certainly so many different logistics that you don't even consider. And then you're realizing sometimes, you know, overnight and having to do that shifting. How about with you, Jennifer? What are some special logistics that you guys have encountered?
So the logistics that we had, so we've had packed lunches. We haven't had our school canteen open at all. The other issue that we had the parents' evenings running as well for all of primary the other day. We had problems, and I don't think it was our end. I think the majority of the issues that we had also was the actual parents' end, but they weren't able to hear us. We used the school cloud system, which was quite interesting. It was an absolutely brilliant system. I don't know whether you use that as well, the school cloud system to fund the parents' evening. I would highly recommend this. What was great about it, normally when you do the parents' evening, you end up having those parents that take a long time to walk, and the teacher could end up taking a long time. With this, it was a very tight schedule. You had a 15-minute slot in terms of logistics. The teacher sat there, went through it. They would have their schedule. If the parent came on late, it would just cut out completely. So they would only have like 7 minutes as opposed to 15 for your set time. And it ran really, really smoothly. So I was really happy with that. I had a parent email me saying, Jennifer, just wanted to give you some feedback. We thought the system was excellent. And the fact that it kept the timings was a plus, because it meant that the teachers didn't have to worry about, okay, but they're going to have parents running over as well. So that worked really well. But apart from that, we've had issues with the internet as well, whereby the teachers, when they were running the live sessions, because we're still doing that at Key Stage 4 and 5, there could be issues with the bandwidth in terms of the internet from the students' end. Our end, we've tested it, we made sure that it was working fine. So we were going through the whole process to see how many users we could get online. So it's been fine from our end as well.
So it's really incredible, the pivoting we all have to do with the new different restrictions, new ways of having to do things based on all these logistics. So yeah.
Well, we've talked a lot about the schools. I'm interested also in how is this affecting your community and things like tourism and commerce. And we'll start with you, Mark. How is it affecting life outside of school?
It's affected everything really, particularly when we were in full lockdown after March. There was very limited things open, and businesses have really suffered. Lots of places have closed, but we had the furlough scheme running here, so lots of businesses put their employees on furlough where they received 80% of their salary, so just to avoid them being made redundant. And it's worked for a period of time. The amount of redundancies has gone up, just because there's not as many people going out shopping, buying, particularly the hospitality sector is really at the moment. It started to pick up. You may have heard about the sort of Eat Out to Help Out scheme that was running here. It was quite ironic because they were telling us to all keep our distance, but then encouraging us to go out and socialise. So it's quite confusing, but they have done that to promote it. But I do fear now that, given this morning's announcement here, where particularly London's going into this next tier of lockdown, that it's probably going to go sliding back to where we were really. And those businesses that were only just starting to recover just won't be able to. But only time will tell really. But I think outside of that, part of my role at the school here is to do with sort of online safety and looking after the children. And as the others have said about welfare, just keeping people connected has been really tricky. And everyone's turned to Zoom calls, social media, just to stay connected with their friends and family. And that's also had its knock-ons on the children, who are now exposed to a lot more of what's going on, particularly online, than they would have been able to before. They're just on their devices for so much longer. They're more connected with other people. So that's opened up a whole other area, really. Adam,
how about in Vietnam? What are you noticing?
Yeah, there's a fair amount of tourism in Vietnam, especially around Hanoi. So that's where we're located. So there's all the cruises up in Halong Bay, and there's a lot of beaches on our Phu Quoc Island and the surrounding area. So my understanding is about half of the tourism income comes from overseas. So they're doing a lot of promoting of local travel, and those of us that are in country, we're not the millions coming in from outside. So they're certainly feeling that, but there's a lot of encouragement of local tourism. And because there's been stretches of no community spread, there's been periods of time where traveling locally has been basically viable. It's been relatively safe, although as we headed towards the start of our school year in mid-August, we had teachers, as part of their summer, they were vacationing locally, and then we had an outbreak in one of the main areas is Da Nang, and there's an old Hoi An ancient town in that area, and a lot of our teachers were there. So they all had to quarantine coming back from a local destination and couldn't come to school. And so anyone that went there, so we actually moved our school year the school start by about 3 days or so. And then everybody was able to clear through. But overall, and that's one of the issues, I think, for a lot of countries, even if you don't have active outbreaks going on, one of the reasons for that is you've put in restrictions on your borders, and Vietnam requires a 2-week quarantine. So actually we went through that experience along with the new teachers, where we ended up in a hotel quarantining. So I suppose that's a little bit of income. So as the country allows experts to come back in, they could get extra income, because it's a very elevated price, because they have to do all this extra cleaning and things like that. For our students, they're getting the community is getting more connections, because we can do on campus for at least students. So I think that helps, but there's definitely being disconnected from family and having to do things remotely back to home countries is tough for well-being.
Yeah.
What about you, Jeff? In Qatar, what are you seeing?
Yeah, things are, the government announces tests and how many tests they've given, how many have tested positive, and so it's been pretty consistent lately. But again, it's you can get just about anything you want here delivered through a company. And so I don't know if it's been that much of a hit to a lot of restaurants. I think, of course, the in seating has taken hit, but again, I think we've actually ordered more food since we've been in kind of sequestered in the house than we have when we haven't. So we just went out this morning for breakfast, my wife and I, and had a lovely day. And it seems like people are out and about, and things have to continue, and you just have to do it in a safe manner. So I think that's what the government's trying to push is be respectful, keep that, I know people, I was on a webinar last year and somebody said social distancing, but he said it's really not social distancing, it's physical distancing.
It is.
Stay social, but physical distance. So, we try to do that. Again, we went out last night with friends and came back, and I wish my daughter and a couple of boys that were here were doing more physical distancing. But
you always wish that. You always wish that, pandemic or not.
Exactly. So, but the kids are really doing what they can. I mean, it's hard for them, but with WhatsApp and TikTok and stuff, the kids, I would argue, at times are even more socially connected during this time. It's we just have to be there for them if they need us, and keep. We're also doing a community wellness program at the school, which I think is good, where a lot of new teachers coming in that have been quarantined for 21 days, they're busting free and they're out now and about, and we're checking up with them. And so it's kind of that checking in on each other, I think, has been pretty good between teachers. So yeah.
Excellent. And Jennifer, in Egypt, what are you seeing?
Well, the tourism's been difficult because we're not having so many flights coming into Egypt as well, which is affecting the tourists. Like, I had some visitors that were meant to come over twice during the summer months. They weren't able to come because their flights got cancelled from the UK. And also, people going back to the UK, they would have to isolate as well. So people aren't travelling like they used to. We've got a very heavy number of expats teachers here, and during the Christmas they've decided they're not going to go away, they're going to have to stay in Egypt. So it's quite difficult because of that. And they also require the PCR test coming into Egypt now as well. So that's also deterred people from travelling to Egypt, which is difficult. So
yeah. Something else though too, I guess, if some families are losing some income, a lot of your schools are private schools. Has that affected your school population in any way?
Definitely. We've had a number of students actually leave because they've had to go back to their home countries. So that's also reduced our student cohort that we've got. So then we have to look at our numbers and see how we're going to actually increase this as well in terms of advertising.
We thought we would. We actually experienced the opposite, which we weren't expecting, where state schools around us weren't providing as much of an online education as the independent schools.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Parents were actually looking for schools that could provide this if we do go into another full lockdown and have full online learning. So we haven't seen many more, but it's sort of stayed the same or increased by a few actually, which was surprising for us.
At this point, the enrollment is we're still full, and so we had a strategy to basically enroll, increase the amount that we would have come through the application process, and we didn't know how that would go, and I think it's a tie-in to that economic. It's something that we have to keep monitoring because it could change at any time. There's manufacturing in Vietnam if there were to be, and hospitality. So if they're going through a prolonged period of financial decline, then we might see more expats that end up leaving and going back to their home country, or if there's something like an outbreak that occurs that could have people decide to head back. So it's something that we're monitoring closely, but we're really thankful that it actually turned out to be a really positive enrollment this year.
We've dropped a little bit. We're usually about 2,250, and we're sitting right around 2,200 now. And I think, again, I give credit back to the teachers. I mean, the leadership team, we we really focused on getting that communication out to parents to say, look, we're all in this together, and we really advertised what we're trying to do virtually. We really pushed it because, in a way, a private school is also a business, and that tuition is important. So we needed to make sure that parents were comfortable that we're not the only school that's going online. So what can we provide, and what are we having? What can we extend for the children? And so we really focused on that quite a bit too. And we talked about our plans, what we're doing to move forward, how we're working with the government, how we're doing even things above and beyond what the government wants. And it's one of those things. I think you have to sell yourself also in these type of situations, because if you don't, parents are going to wonder. They're going to say, well, wait a minute, what's another school doing? Maybe my children are going to do better in some other school. So we need to make sure that we kept our education prowess the best we can in this time. So I think that's what helped us.
Yeah, and highlight your innovations. Yeah, for sure.
Other thing I just wanted to add real quick was that in our case as well, we put in a financial aid program, because there definitely were some families and industries and circumstances that were impacted. So the board set aside budget to fund that program.
So when you think about all of the changes you've had to make all of the logistics, all of the pivoting that you've had to do, all of the work the teachers have put in, and all of the other staff members as well, and then also just thinking about your communities, what do you see as being perhaps long-term, these changes kind of sticking long-term and lasting because of the changes we've had to make because of COVID? Or also, what are your hopes maybe for keeping some changes, or perhaps shedding some of those? We'll start with Jeff.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I'm probably maybe the oldest one here, but
no, I don't think so.
I've been in education quite a long time. I started teaching second grade, and taught fourth grade in middle school, and ed tech, and so now the IT director. I've been able to see quite a few things that come and go. And one of the things that we've always talked about in education is giving kids more independence with their learning. I talked about it a little bit earlier. And I think we found out that, which we probably knew, that some kids do really, really well, and some kids struggle with it. The middle school kids, it's got some that are doing okay, and some kids that are kind of falling behind. So, it's things like this. Unfortunately, my daughters, I think they really excelled in this time. They could be in front of a computer for 3-4 hours, and they could be independent. So again, that was a blessing for us. And but I struggle with the little ones, with the parents that are working. How are the parents, and stuff like this. So so maybe this is it. If we look at this positively, what are the holes that we have in our education? How can we fill those holes? How can we fill, maybe it's pointing out more of those kids that maybe get left behind. How can we do it when we do have them in front of our class, in front of ourselves, when there's 22, 23 kids in the class? Maybe this will give us a better perspective, maybe another tool. Maybe this is going to be another way that we can reach out to some of those kids and focus on them. So yeah, the long term, who really knows, right? I think one of the big things for me from this, and Jerri, you talked about it at the start. I wish this wouldn't be political. I really wish this wouldn't be political.
Yeah.
But people have got to make it that way. I would just like the science to be out there to find out what is the best way to handle this. What is the best way to move forward? I think when we look at that, when we take the politics out of it, and we listen to the facts, and I think that's going to be the best way to move forward. And then if this stuff happens again, because we probably know it'll happen again sometime, maybe hopefully not in our lifetime, but how then can we best move forward and get through it quicker? So
yeah, for sure. Many lessons learned. Absolutely. And I agree with the level of independence that we're seeing too. I mean, I see it in my Amazon bill. Actually, my daughter's going online, and I'm saying, "What is this? Oh, I had to buy blue light for my because I'm in front of the screen all the time." Okay, so we see packages coming. So yes, I do see an elevated level of independence in my home as well. I had to actually change the password. But so how about you, Mark?
Yeah, we've definitely seen the increased independence here as well, even with some of our younger ones, because we go down to age 2. I wouldn't say they're independent, but some of our little ones are definitely more independent than they were before. I think my hope really is that some of the hard work and the upskilling that our staff have done will continue. I think it's been a real... some of them have been really motivated actually to learn new skills, and those teachers that may have taught traditionally in a classroom are now more open and perceptive and encouraged to try new ways. And I think it's just supporting them through that. I always say to them that don't feel like you have to use the technology the whole time. Now that we are into this more, now that we are back face to face, it is an additional tool, and just use it where you think it will benefit your lesson. And I think bringing it across to them like that has been really encouraging, because they don't feel under pressure to use it. And they really can see some of the opportunities that it does provide, particularly when we can't do as much group work, they can't collaborate as much. Some of them are dabbling with these online tools that they would never have touched before. So my personal hope is that that will continue, and that we'll just grow even more confident with that. But yeah.
I agree. I have the same hope for that. I definitely am so impressed with how teachers are obviously so resilient, but whether they wanted to or not, they're learning about some of these new tools, and it doesn't have to be a ton, but just take 1 or 2 or 3, and it's really being able to leverage those in the best way. And to pick up on what Jeff was saying, to be able to see like, wow, this is really great. I try to do one-to-one conferences in the classroom, or I have tried in the past, and sometimes it's hard with logistics and getting to everyone, but now I can actually find a way to do small group instruction, conferencing, and at the same time use technology tools to get some formative assessment, and then use that to drive my next day instruction. So they're kind of seeing how some of these technology tools don't have to be scary, but can actually benefit them in this setting or in face-to-face setting too. So I think that's exciting. I think they're going to keep on holding on to those and using those as well. How about you, Jennifer?
So I agree with Mark there that the online tools, the use of these has been absolutely brilliant during lockdown and remote learning, because teachers who were afraid beforehand, they've had to basically be pushed to actually use these tools, and they thought, okay, it's not so bad after all. Even just using Zoom, I had to then go through the coaching with staff as well to make sure that they were confident using it, and now they're really happy with it. I've had staff members go off and actually do certification for Zoom because they know the advantage of this, which we never would have got those staff members to do that beforehand as well. Regarding the students, I think what this highlighted is how important just digital literacy skills are for our students. So we need to really think about this within the curriculum and making sure that it is embedded from as soon as they can go on into the computer suite and use this as well, because this is really important, because we don't know how long COVID's going to be with us as well. It might be this year, it might be next year, it might be for the next 5 or 6 years. So we need to look at a new normal, a new way of actually delivering our curriculum. What's great about the older students is that it does promote that independence. So you can use split learning within the classroom as well, doing this through remote learning as well. So you're not actually having to waste time and hold their hands all the way through. So it's more student-led rather than teacher-led.
Yeah, and I think highlighting that in these times, it has been a benefit. Because teachers can see I don't have to be the person spoon feeding information.
Exactly.
And it really does kind of allow me to see better their understanding when they are able to kind of work through concepts. And hey, you always think, well, they can't do it, I need to do it for them. And now they're saying, Wow. Okay. They're kind of a little bit better than I thought. This is great. How about you, Adam?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think that this event is something that's like forever imprinted on, we're part of this cohort that hopefully there's not too many cohorts that experience this exact circumstance. But, I think that if there's something that we take away, it's that we have something to continue to encourage and build upon, around that digital literacy for staff, faculty, and for the students, along with digital citizenship and the learning about the etiquette and safe online behavior and all of that. Whatever programs we had that came before this, we depended on through it, or we were challenged by if they were absent. And I know in the case of our school, we had we ran a program at the time parallel to the curriculum, and we're working to have it more embedded, those literacy and citizenship. But if you need to kind of catch up on it, you can run a program and all the responsible use teachings, learning about scams and schemes and bullying and the permanence of posting online and all those things that students had learned before. Were things that we depended on while they, were in distance learning from home. So I hope that we build on that. When I think of faculty, and being in IT for a while, I think of there was a time once where people just wouldn't send screenshots of stuff. Now it's normal. You take a little snippet and throw it in your email, and now we have screencasts. So we're doing a quick screencast. Or I think about if there's a meeting, like imagine this panel. It's on a Zoom call where you could go to PD, come back and do a panel where you record it and share it with other people. It's just high fidelity. It's information rich, and it's better than a screenshot, a little video snippet. My hope for the future is that sticks and that people continue to communicate with video and these tools ongoing, and it complements the essential in-person interactions.
Adam, along that same line, I was talking to an educator last night, and they had done the first line of Zoom parent-teacher conferences. And they said, this was phenomenal. We should not quit this, because they felt like the parents were more relaxed. Yeah. And said, why do they have to come to the school? It's more convenient. And they said the other thing on the teacher end was, when it's done, it's done. And everybody goes off, and it's very efficient. You get to the next one on time, but they just felt like it was so efficient and so much more relaxing and better for parents. And so, that might be something that does stick in the future. So.
I think so.
Yeah, parent orientation was like that.
Yeah, and it's no more of the announcement over. Okay, everyone must leave the building, because parents like to linger. Right. We finished this 10 minutes ago. Please leave the building. We don't need that anymore.
No.
Yeah. Just click the leave button, right? But yeah, and I really think that although I kind of drawing on what each of you have said. I think that, although we are distant, obviously there are so many opportunities for collaboration, and our technologies have allowed us to do that. And I hope that sharing of ideas, this information rich, as you mentioned, Adam, I think having this as something long lasting is going to be really important to keep on having. And I'm excited for that, because I really think that because people are now more comfortable with it, it is the norm that we will continue to share and broaden our ideas and continue to grow. And then finding ways to keep that collaboration going. I know that you mentioned, Jeff, it's a little bit of a struggle sometimes with teachers in their PAC meetings, and even students using cooperative learning. We don't want to throw away best practices, right? So even though they have to be in rows, or even though we have to be in our separate homes, we can still encourage that collaboration in innovative ways. So I'm hoping that we're leveraging technology and keeping that that's my hope. So but I am so excited that we were able to get together and do this. And I work with each of you, and I think this is just a nice way for us to have a different conversation. And I really appreciate you sharing all of the ways that you all are breaking boundaries, and all of the people that you work with in your own school communities are breaking boundaries and able to share that with our audience. So thank you all so much for joining. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for listening. And if you would like to stay linked up, be sure to follow us on Apple and Spotify, and subscribe to us on YouTube.